I'm Chad Mills.
I'm Marissa Mills, and we attend the Hazlitt campus.
At the age of 18 years old, I started hanging around with a lot older group of people with the work I was in. I started developing really bad habits with addiction. A lot of alcohol was in at that time. I struggled with it from about 18 to 23 years old of being an alcoholic, drinking about a bottle of vodka a night. Didn't really have a path I was going down or knew what to do with my life. By the time I was 23, I had a really bad birthday. I woke up with a couple concussions and didn't know what happened the night before. So I decided to quit drinking, but then I started substituting it with other substances such as marijuana and pills. Struggled with that for a pretty long time up until I was about 32 years old. We met in January of 2019, the day before my birthday. I was brave enough to ask her to actually go out for my birthday, and at that time, I was still going out, and I would drink occasionally on my birthday. I invited her out. She told me she didn't like to go out and drink and do all that stuff, but her friend convinced her to go, and she ended up coming out, picking me up from my house, taking us out to bars and everything like that, and then we've been together ever since then. I met Marissa January 25th. My birthday was January 26th. When I woke up January 27th, I had found out bad news about my parents that kind of ripped away the safety net that I had with them. I had texted her letting her know what had happened. At that time, she didn't believe me. She just thought it was a really bad kind of excuse to not be with her anymore. And, her response after I told her what happened immediately was, "Do I need to take the day off and be with you?" And it was kind of at that moment I felt, someone actually love and care for me, even though we had just met. And just knowing that someone was there during that hard struggle for me was very important for me at that time.
I kind of stepped in and helped guide him through that moment. And I didn't really know what to do or where to start, but I found ways that we were able to find out how he could stay connected with family, and so that way he didn't lose those ties. And I could see that that was a relief to him because he was so stressed and didn't know where to go or what to do. And so I kind of just felt like I needed to step in. I was hesitant at first because I had been in bad relationships and been in situations where I've given my all and it's not panned out, but I was like, I'm just gonna do it one more time, and it worked out. And I feel like I was placed there to kind of step in that moment. Even though I wasn't sure what to do, I definitely felt like I was being led to what I needed to do to help him out in that situation.
A few months goes by. At that time, I had moved in with her due to just financial struggles and everything. She was really just kind of holding me down, but I was still abusing some substances and just lost on a path. Didn't have, the greatest job at the time and everything. And I came home one day and she was sitting on her bed reading her Bible. And she, she kind of told me, she's like, "Listen, like, I just feel a calling to start reading this. I'm not going to ask you to. I'm not going to, tell you to stop doing anything you're doing, but I'm just going to pray for you and hope that that kind of gets you on the path that you need to be on." When 2020 hit, we tried a lot of house shopping out in Arizona where we were at. Prices were going skyrocketing, and we just couldn't find anything for ourselves that was right for us. I had landed a solid job at the time. So we made it through the pandemic being a fresh relationship that, living together and then going through a lockdown together. We made it through the pandemic, and we started attending a church out in Arizona that we ended up getting baptized at, I think, a few weeks after we started attending on Easter. After another service or two, we just had this calling to pick up and kind of leave. We went that Sunday, and there was the sermon about just stepping out of the boat and trusting God. And we both got back to the truck and was like, this is it. This is what we're going to do. Within a week, we had plane tickets out to Texas, a realtor lined up, and we came out here and started looking for houses. We told your mom on Mother's Day that we were going to be moving to Texas, and from, I want to say, May to July, we sold everything, picked up everything, and started our drive out here to Texas.
We started heading out early morning into our drive to Texas. We were going to take 2 days to get here because he had to start work on Monday. So we left Saturday morning. And within 3 hours, we got into New Mexico and his transmission blew on his truck. And we were hauling my car that was filled with all of our belongings because we wanted to save money and not get a U-Haul. And we ended up in like this tiny town where there was one mechanic, and then there was a U-Haul shop, but that U-Haul was already rented out for the day. So we had to make a 3-hour round trip, unload my car, throw everything in his truck, and take my car to go pick up a U-Haul, come back, have his truck towed to Midland, Texas. And we didn't end up in Midland until like 3 in the morning when we were supposed to be there at 4 p.m. But it just felt like, because we were engaged at that point and we had the wedding all planned, and it felt like that was kind of like a test from God to see how we could handle that situation, how we could handle such stress. And we were put through that, and we handled it better than I could have ever imagined. Not to pick on Chad or anything, but he can sometimes get a little hot-headed. So he was really calm during that. And so it just really felt like a test, and it solidified that our relationship was what it was supposed to be, because we were able to make through that so easily.
We were living out in Arlington when we first moved out here into an apartment we didn't physically look at. We just found online and said, hey, these pictures look nice, let's rent a place. We just wanted to get out here. So we rented the apartment. In there for a year. The one nice thing about that apartment is that's the apartment we discovered that she was pregnant with Rhett. And that's pretty funny because she had gotten a care package from work with candy in it, and we ate all the candy, and I was in the restroom after dinner, and I came out, and she told me that she got in her package. So I was excited that there was more candy, and I went up there and I opened it, and it was the pregnancy test and everything like that. So that was super, that's the only good thing I can take away from the Arlington experience with us living out there. March of 23, we started the process of finding land and building a home on it. And when we first looked out here for homes, we were everywhere south of towards Burleson. I think we were even touching Crawley and everything like that, and we couldn't find anything. And then we finally found a piece of land that worked for us. We ended up purchasing it, having a home built on there, and then we moved in September of 2023. And from there, we've been calling that place home since. Once we kind of got settled back into the house, the stress of being a new dad and everything like that, I just felt a lot of pressure with my work not kind of going anywhere and kind of feeling like I wasn't providing. So I started going back towards substances to kind of numb the pain of what I would consider failing at that time. Just a lot of stress on me with not feeling like I was really going anywhere or doing anything with my life, and then having a newborn child. So I relapsed for a little bit on that. Relapsing when our first son was born was kind of I look back and I of course regret all of it, but it was just one of those things that at that time I was just really broken. At that time we weren't attending church. We didn't really know what we were doing. Obviously, we didn't have family out here or anything with a newborn child. We had attended a few churches, but nothing felt comfortable to us. It was just kind of always a number in the seat and just, sit down, listen to some music and someone talk for a little while, and then you would just leave.
It was like a week before Mother's Day, and I told Chad that all I wanted to do was to go to church for Mother's Day, and that I had heard good things about FOTP, that wasn't too far from our house. And so I asked him, like, can we please just go attend the service? And he was like, yeah, let's go. So we went to the service and they were doing the child dedication. And I thought that was the coolest thing. I honestly wanted to dedicate Rhett that day. I just felt like, oh, this is where we need to be. We got home and we talked about it a little bit, and he said, let's give it another try. And so we went back the following Sunday, and we were welcomed with open arms, and it just felt like home as soon as we got there. Andy walked us around, showed us the kids area. I was very nervous to put my son in any kind of care, and I just felt like I could do this. I could put my son in the care. This is going to be our church home, and ever since then, we've been going. We haven't missed a service since.
So after the starting point, we realized really quick we wanted to be a part of the church. Just to kind of have that sense of community was big for us and big for me to continue my sobriety and kind of feeling of community. Because at that time, my parents hadn't lived out here yet, and it was just us. So we wanted to have that sense of community, people we trusted and everything. So after this first starting point we attended, I had applied to do the media team, and she ended up working in the children's room. And from there, it was kind of, I do media as often as I can now. Chuck said something during the first starting point that we attended that you get to go to church, not that you have to go to church. And that whole mindset kind of changed, and that's where I wanted to volunteer more. We're now spending 3 services at church volunteering for the media team has been a big joy for me, where I tell her, I'm like, I get to listen to the message 3 times in a day, and there's no better way to have that message stick with you than listening to it 3 times in one day. And I enjoy church when I'm able to give back, when I can walk through and see everyone I volunteer with and meet and enjoy spending our entire Sundays together. I started attending Better Men's Group as our small group, and Glenn, was leading that, and with him was Scott. He ended up hosting a men's retreat. I guess it was the second year for it. At the time, we weren't financially in the best spot, and it cost some money. And, I told her, I was like, I would really love to go to this, but I understand that, if we can't afford it, there's next year. We'll save up for it. She came to me one day and she was just like, I made the bills work. Go buy your ticket. You're going to go. Going out on that retreat, I was able to connect to a lot of guys in the church. I was able to make some really good friends, some that, I invited over Thanksgiving. Some of them joined our family small group that we attend. So it made a nice community between the guys of the church, where when I go in every Sunday, I'm going up and shaking the hands and saying hi. Having that sense of brotherhood between the guys at the church was big for me. Back home, I had a lot of close friends, so leaving them was really hard for me. So finding a group of guys here that I've been able to kind of, text if I have issues. We have a group chat of Bible verses we're reading and going through. So that alone to me has been, life-changing, to have that sense of connection and brotherhood out of the church.
The whole time, we didn't really text that much. I wanted him to get the full experience. But when he got home, he was a completely, not different person, but you could definitely tell that it had a huge impact on him. He was a lot more calm, more patient, more present overall, and was really God-focused, where he had been, but not to that extreme. And it was just incredible to see how 3 days of being with all these guys made such an impact on him. And it felt like I got Chad back, because I was so used to him having his friends back home, and now he had this group, and he was excited to talk about the experiences. He was excited to say what they were doing. He talks about how they're doing the Bible verses together, and it's just so cool to see how God has placed so many things in his life to lead him to this family that we've created here at FOTP. And it's just, incredible to watch how God is working and moving and making changes, not only for him, but for our family too.
We were able to convince my parents finally to move out here last March. Um, it was a big move for them. They had to leave my sister and other nephews and nieces behind, but my parents were looking for a fresh start. They knew that being out here was been the best thing to happen to me, so they decided to join us on the journey. They came and lived with us for a few months. That was fun, to say the least. They ended up finding a place just 10 minutes from us. From there, they get to be full-time grandparents to our son, and they started attending church with us and giving themselves to the church as well, which has been a big life-changing for my mom. I know that. And, just seeing her kind of restart her life fresh has been, very important to kind of bring the family dynamic back for us. The timing of everything has just been kind of crazy that, us leading out here helped me find God, that then helped my mom find God, that, has kind of led our family down the path we should have been on all along. God's timing is perfect. You just have to let go and really trust that he does have the correct plan for you. July 7th was the first day of my sobriety recently. I was driving into work and the song Reckless Love came on. I felt just the urge to let go of everything and really commit myself to God. I ended up throwing my paraphernalia out of my car on my way to work and just said, I'm done. I'm going to just give it all to him and just see what he has for me in store. And I have not looked back once.